Hello, hello, hello. Hello there, Europa.
Hey. Hello, ladies.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I like that lipstick on you. What are you wearing?
Oh, thank you. I am wearing, you know what? I don't know. It's a Sephora brand. It's not Sephora, but I got it at Sephora, and it is a Stella.
Oh, Stella.
Stella.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, it looks good.
I don't know if you can.
I can see. It looks good. I miss wearing lipstick every day because with masks now, you know what, it just rubs off. But I'm looking forward to the summer. I think we'll be able to do more things with our lips. By that I mean, lip balm and lipstick. So yeah.
Even if it rubs off, I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna wear my lipstick.
I'm wearing it
because you're not wearing it all the time. You're just wearing it, like, let's say when you walk in to the office up until you get to your desk or whatever, then you can take it off, right?
Yeah.
So while you have it off,
Yeah, that's true. You can have it on. So yeah. Hi, ladies. Welcome to our conversation. And our topic for today actually matches Ropa's lipstick. The reason I say that is because we're talking about love. So we're talking about...
Why is love red? I don't understand.
Because I don't know, traditionally the symbol of the heart has been
red.
And I think it also denotes passion, right? It also denotes passion. So yeah, so that's that's our topic of discussion today is finding love,
Yeah.
How do you find love? I think, you know what, as women, it's something sometimes you can get jaded, because you've been burnt or whatever, but ultimately I think most of us, it's a need. We seek out love, and we all have stories. I'd like to consider ourselves women of a certain age. And so we all have, journeys and stories and experiences about finding love. So, without further ado, Ropa, what's been your journey? What would you say about finding love?
Well, finding love. You know what? It's one of those topics that are really hard to define and to be specific, because it's not a one size fits all type of situation, right? But in terms of finding love, my journey has been rocky at best. I think only in recent times am I, am I clear on, what I would like in terms of finding love, and in terms of, like, the people I hang around with, or the one I'm with, stuff like that. But before that, it has been me choosing the wrong people to be with, not to toot my own horn or anything like that. I think I'm a good girlfriend, but I've had a hard time finding the right person, the person that's not going to take advantage of the goodness. When you're a giving person, and you pick the wrong person that is only going to take and feel entitled to whatever it is that you give, after a while you feel you become guarded. So I think that has been my journey. I don't know if I'm answering you correctly, but I feel a lot of women have gone through what I'm talking about, where you literally are out there, you wear your heart on your sleeve, and for some funny reason you attract the type of people that want to take, that want to take advantage and all this. But also I have been very fortunate to have been able to love wholeheartedly and be loved back. So I think half and half is what I can say in terms of like my experience to finding love. What has been your experience?
On finding love?
Yeah.
I think your first love is always memorable, right? I think your first love is always memorable. And I don't know, I feel like, what's her name? Rose. Remember Rose from the Titanic? I think she was well into was she in her 90s when she was being interviewed? And she remembered, I guess, the story with Jack like it was just yesterday, right? And so for, my first love, I was 15, and it was, I think for me, how do I say this? Was I fortunate or unfortunate that it was my first boyfriend? And it's also someone that I fell madly in love with. You don't have experience with love. You don't hold back. You act based on how you feel, right? And in the beginning, it was really good. And in that case, I think love found me because he pursued me, right? And so, it was during those days, for our younger viewers, when we didn't have personal phones, so we had landlines. So I remember when he used to call me, if it was around supper time, I'd go to my parents' room and, hide out there so I could talk to him. But my dad could always time that, okay, you know what, this has been too long, I need to go and intervene. And then when he'd come, I'd remember my dad would say, oh, who are you talking to? And I said, oh, just a friend. But he knew what was going on, but he wasn't going to intervene too much. So I think in that case, how do I say this? Love found me. It was all consuming, and I wore my heart on my sleeve. And I think for the longest time, when it came to other relationships, that's kind of how I operated, right? Like you said, you wear your heart on your sleeve and you're open. But the paradox in this is that the universe, there are some concepts that say you attract what you represent. So, if you're a positive person and you're a giving person, why is it then sometimes that you don't attract that? You attract people who want to take, like you're saying, all right?
So, that means that's a wrong statement, though, if that's the case, because if you are attracting what you represent, then you should be able to attract the same kind of person that also represents what you represent, right?
Mm-hmm. But it's not, it's not always it's not always the case. So, without going, I know I went on and on about that first one, but that set the foundation of others in the future. I think I honestly believe that, if you're open, you wear your heart on your sleeve. If you love someone, why should you hold back? Why should you play games? Why should you pretend? Because when you're not being your authentic self, then you're not going to get the full experience of the relationship, right? So for me, I think when I've been in love, I've been authentic. I've put my heart on my shoulder. Is that put my heart on my shoulder? Wore my heart on my sleeve, and I've been open. Yeah, I've been open as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, so I think in terms of if you're looking at firsts, I think my first boyfriend was he was very, very, very affectionate, very loving, and it kind of complemented who I am as a person, because I'm very affectionate, I'm very loving, I'm very, I'm okay with, with the hugging and the cuddling and all that good stuff. And the good thing about him was that it wasn't just about, the relationship. To him also, he was very entrepreneurial. He had an entrepreneur's mind. And he gave me a lot of tips, a lot of things that I never would have thought about.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good in that respect, where a lot of times, sometimes when I do certain things, I think back to when I dated him, and he would always mention, so when I first dated him, I didn't have like a driver's license. Obviously I was young, right? And he's like, well, a girl or a person should always have 3 things: a driver's license, a passport, and a bank account, preferably a bank account with 2 bank accounts with foreign currency or whatever. So he's the one who was telling me and teaching me all that. When I think about it, I learned a lot from him. And sometimes, the things I do sometimes is kind of stemming from some of the conversations we had.
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, yeah, thinking about finding love. But when you're young, I find it's easier to find love because you're all young, you haven't been hurt, you haven't gone through whatever you've gone through, you're just dating. Like if you're looking at your first, you're dating because you're attracted to this person. You don't have likes and dislikes yet. You haven't gone through certain things. Because last recording, I think you mentioned that if not for your guy that you dated, the first guy you dated, him not being true to his word, him saying, okay, well, I'll be here, and he doesn't show up, type of thing, it made you feel a certain way, and now you have a certain standard based on the happenings of that situation.
Initial experience.
Right. So I feel when you're young, it's easy to be gone with the wind type of thing. And then when you get older now, that's when it becomes a bit kind of, murky a little bit, because now you can get hurt in this area, you don't like certain things, if somebody does this, it might mean something, or it will trigger you in a certain way. How then do you find love when you've been broken?
Yeah, when you've been broken.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's, I think that's the crux of the matter there. When you've been broken, you're more cautious, and you guard your heart, a bit more. And, I think that becomes the launch pad for, well, we've heard this one a lot of times, from Steve Harvey, where he talks about, the probation period, like, a 3-month period. And, well, in that case, I think he talks about physical intimacy in that regard, but that's not the focus here. But I like the probation period because sometimes we think, well, we need to guard our physical space, but we forget that part of that physical space is our heart, right? Before you give yourself your heart to someone else, they need to prove to be worthy. Right. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes, you meet someone, you get excited, you get caught up in those feelings, and you consider them love, but that person hasn't truly proved who they are for you to feel safe to give your heart. So it's one thing to be an open person where you wear your heart on your sleeve, but you'll keep on getting bruised if you fall in love too easily, right? So I think for me, what I do now is I study the person more based on experience and just being, wiser and older. So you study the person to see if their word matches their actions, and for you to, I guess, assess whether you'll feel safe in this person's company before I give my heart, right? Because it's easy to say you love someone in the initial phase, when they're doing the right thing, they're calling, they're showing up, when you argue, they let you win. But after some time, those things, they start falling on the wayside. And it's after they fell on the wayside that you're able to assess, well, has their behavior changed completely? And do I still feel the same way? And then I think that's when you can truly open up your heart. But then, is that a game? Is that holding back? I don't know.
No, I wouldn't call it holding back per se. I don't think a person should technically hold back. You should start as you mean to go. Right?
Okay.
If you want a fun type of relationship, then start off as a funny, whatever person, because that person after 3 months is not gonna, you're not gonna give him, like, let's say 50% of yourself. And then after 3 months, then you're like, here I am. You know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute, I fell in love with this 50%. What is this other 50% over here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think you should just be yourself, but then at the same time, inwardly, you know that, okay, I need to make sure that this person is the right fit for me. All right. Mm-hmm. Does this person check all the boxes? Is this person who he says he is, type of thing? And I think that to me would be the 3-month probation. Mm-hmm. Okay, you said you are this. Then I need to make sure that you are really who you are, as opposed to taking you by your word, type of thing. Because now the 3 months is you looking at the actions of this person, right? And within those 3 months, you also have to make sure that you don't fall in such a way that you kind of stop looking, you ignore red flags. Mm-hmm. Right? So a red flag comes along, you ignore it, because now all of a sudden you are now in there, your whole head, your whole heart is now engulfed in this man. You can't think straight without, you can't think on your own. Mm-hmm. Type of thing. Even after the 3 months, you still have to be able to think on your own. Mm-hmm. As a person, right? That's what I think. I don't know. I don't think it's a game per se. I think it's just you more making sure that this is the right peak. And I think not really for the most part, like when I was younger, I never really looked at that. When I was younger, I was just more like, okay, I like you, you like me. Okay, well, let's see where this goes. And that's not how you handle a relationship. And then you find, okay, so you picked without looking at this person's character, you jumped in there, and now all of a sudden you're not happy because this person is, I don't know, this person is not who you thought they were. Mm-hmm. But because you jumped into it and threw caution to the wind, you're now stuck in there trying to make it work because you've invested so much and you just don't want to see your investment go to waste. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people stay anyway. Oh, I've been through a lot with this person. We've spent 2 years, 3 years together. I'm not gonna, lose my investment so that another girl can take what I've trained up, blah, blah, blah. Like,
I know.
It's not working.
It's not
Let
working.
it go.
Yeah. And then that's, the funny thing though, is that it's actually not logical, because you say to yourself, okay, this is a suboptimal relationship, but mm-hmm. I've invested so much time in it. And so I don't want to break up with this person. But if you compare that to possibly marriage and a long-term relationship, it's better to cut off a relationship that lasted 2 years, even though you've invested time in it.
Yeah.
And for you to end up with the wrong person and be in a miserable marriage. And then I think what we also don't
go through a nasty divorce.
And then when they're kids, sometimes it becomes more complicated. So you might even say, because it's complicated, right? And so I think for me, that's why it's important for us as women. We're emotional creatures, but it stands to reason to have a logical mindset when you're assessing someone. The first 3 months should really be an interview. And I wholeheartedly agree with Steve Harvey, where you're trying to figure out whether this person is really who they say they are. And also look at your value system, right? I think now when it comes to values, it's something that I really emphasize, and hopefully even with our young viewers, what do you stand for? What kind of a life do you want? Does this person match up with those values? And
does it fit in?
Life, does he fit in? Because it's one thing to have feelings. Feelings come and go. But I've heard from those people that, have been in long-term marriages that, what keeps us together in times when we don't feel lovey-dovey is shared values and shared interests, That's what gets us through those difficult times. But if you're with someone who doesn't have the same interests with you, shared values, and just passion, and that, he drives me crazy, girl, that's not going to last. It will end in pain, right? It will end in pain. So I think also when it comes to finding love, we need to use our head. We need to use our head more than how we feel. But then, okay, so this is my question to you, Ropa. What does love look like? Because we can talk about finding love, but what does love look like? What does it look like when someone really loves you? I shouldn't say love, really loves you. Someone loves you. What does it look like?
I think when someone loves you, they consider you and consider your feelings. They know that this is not just about them. When someone loves you, they want to know that you are happy. They want to make you happy, right? And you loving this person and it making you happy. You know how sometimes when you're with someone and you're happy just because you're with them, that doesn't always necessarily mean that it's love from them. It's love on your part, but it doesn't mean that this person loves you because you are happy to be there. That person has to
I missed that. You said, okay, can you say that again?
Okay, so I said what love looks like is like a person considers you, right? They go out of their way to also make you happy, make you comfortable, make you make sure that they give you everything that you need because they love you. And you also will do the same. Give them, consideration, think about them when you're making certain decisions that will affect that person, right? What I also said is that you being happy because you're with this person does not mean that that person loves you, right? You might love them because, okay, well, you know what, I'm happy, I'm with this person. And sometimes you get the person is cheating on you or whatever, but because you love them and they come home to you every single day, that doesn't really mean it's love per se from both sides. Where you have it being equal is somebody considers your feelings, somebody makes sure that they don't hurt you on purpose. They don't do those things that will hurt you as a person, right? And they will go out of their way to uplift you as a human being as well, right? Not to block you from certain things. I've been in relationships where I am working on my stuff and trying to get my stuff up there, and this person is coming through just destroying things because they don't want you to, become higher or become this and that. That is not love. You can tell when a person really, really genuinely wants you to be happy, whether it's, helping you with, your business, or whether it's just being there and being supportive, even if it's not like helping you, with your business or anything like that, just being there for you and being there for each other. And it's reciprocal, right? Remember, you keep saying reciprocity.
Yeah, in relationships. Yeah.
In relationships, if you get that and you want to feel like you can trust this person, you don't want to feel you are alone, like you can't lean on them.
Yeah.
I don't know if that explains love, but that's how I look at it.
Yeah, it does. And I like that you brought that competition aspect. I think men are naturally competitive, but you shouldn't be you shouldn't have to reduce yourself or reduce your aspirations as a woman for a man to love you. I you know, it goes into something that I was listening, I guess, to this talk, and you know, it was a married couple. They've been married for 30 years, and you know what the lady said. Sometimes we go into relationships with masks, right? We figure out what this person likes, and we try to be that person, and that person falls in love with the facade, right? And then by the time you're ready to be your real self, it's like you've changed goalposts, and it's not fair because that person has fallen in love with a facade, with an image that you portrayed that's not truly you. So for you to find love, I think part of being loved is being accepted for who you are. No two people are alike. You know, we have different interests, we have different passions, we have different temperaments. And, you know, we try and, you know, some of us are squares and we try and fit ourselves into round holes, and, you know, and it doesn't work, right? You know, when you're your authentic self, you're able to attract true love, because then you find someone who loves you for who you truly are. So I think a big part of love is being accepted, and you're only accepted when you're your true self, right?
Yeah. Be yourself. And I think the one thing also that women do is because we're nurturing creatures, we take that role of nurturing, and then we forget ourselves as well. And you find a lot of women, once they meet someone, they take the role of supporting them, and that person advances in whatever they do, business or whatever. And then when you break up, God forbid, I'm not saying everyone's going to break up, okay? I'm just saying, when you break up, if, you know, it's unreconcilable, you find the woman is the one that's, you know, now struggling. She's now the one that's worse off. Even though she was there 100%, she helped this man grow from 0 to 100. But she forgot about herself, right? And I think as women, like you're saying, be yourself, be you, and don't forget about yourself as well. As he's advancing in his career, you should also be advancing in yours as well. And also, let's say you are not married or anything like that, don't be afraid of success. Whatever level you are, there are men out there on that same level that are ready to date. And I think that's the thing. When coming up, my dad always said, well, if you're gonna do this, what's your husband gonna do? If you're gonna buy a house, what's your husband gonna do? If you're gonna this and that, what's your husband? Funny enough, my dad refused, and nothing against him. I respect the man 100%. I'm not saying this isn't like anything against my dad, but my dad refused to send me to a driving school to get my driver's license, because he said, well, if I do this, what's your husband gonna do? You know, you're gonna get married, and you know, he has to have at least something to do. Right? And I thought that was hilarious. So I ended up, you know, getting a job and I put myself through driving school. So I've always gone after what I wanted, because there was always this notion, well, if I do this for you, what's your husband gonna do? So if I really wanted, you know, to drive, I would drive. If I wanted to get something, I would have to actually get it, type of thing. So for certain women, and I guess maybe I'm mentioning this because I want to get into a question that I wanted to ask. So for certain women, there are women that have grown up being the ones that have to take care of business and the ones that have to do whatever it is that they need to do to get what they want to get, right? In a legal type of way, right? Where you take on 2 jobs, you know, especially when you're a single mother, you have to you have to show up for your kid, right? So for these women, how would you, like, what would you suggest in terms of them finding love? Because they're so used to doing everything on their own, because the men in their lives have not shown up and have not been there for them. So now they're just so used to being the one that does things, and you don't ask for help. You want this, you work hard for it and you get it, right? So how do you make sure that you do not emasculate this man or these potential, lovers, in a way that, and still be yourself at the same time?
So that's the key there. Just being yourself. I think there's a difference between a woman who, actually, I think I'm completely wrong in this case. I guess, I've always come from a mindset that you needed to be a certain way to attract a guy, and also, I guess, to keep that relationship going. But I think it goes back to serving and always thinking about a man's needs. Not that it's a man bashing session, that's not what we're doing here. No. But if you're a single mother and you've always had to do things by yourself, I think when you're being authentically yourself, you're going to attract a guy who will understand and will find a way, I guess, to fit into your life without making you feel bad about always being in charge. Because I think when someone, truly loves you and they're there to edify to your life, they'll try to understand the why, right? I know, for instance, there are some men who put up a front that, I don't care about hugs. I don't care about, affection. I'm a tough guy kind of, guy. And a woman who's perceptive enough can see that that guy is operating out of pain. Something happened to that guy to get him to be that way. So if a woman is patient enough with a guy like that, they can melt the icy exterior and get to the little boy who actually wants to be loved. So I think it's the same thing with a woman who's always had to do stuff by herself. If a man is coming in to add value to her life and he's the right guy for her, he's going to find a way to slowly come to a place where he's taking care of business for herself. So I don't think you have to change who you are. It reminds me also about a story I heard last week. This lady, she was saying she came out of a bad marriage, and one day she was out in the club and she's 6'1". And then she saw this guy who was 6'5", and then she said, whoa, okay, it's not easy for me to get guys who are tall. And you know what, these women can sit at the bar and flip their hair and try and attract a guy to come to them. For me, this is the only tall guy in this club. And so I'm going to go and get him. And so she approached him and she said, well, you know what, can I get you a drink? And for this guy, it actually excited him. And he agreed. And 30 years later, they're still together. So she said, you know what, most guys had always said, you know what, I'm aggressive and I'm too much of a go-getter. But I finally met someone who appreciated that in me. So I didn't have to change, right? So I think that's the key. You know what, when we're authentic selves, for some people, it might take longer because maybe your guy is in a small minority of guys as opposed to, I guess, most guys who are easily emasculated. And so if he's up there, I think he's worth waiting for by you being just your genuine self, right?
Yeah. And if he cares, he will also mention what he needs from you, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if I ever told you this. I think I have. But anyway, I normally say it sometimes as a joke. Not as a joke, but as a way to something to laugh about.
Yeah.
So one of my exes back in Montreal.
Yeah.
So I've always been this person who does things on their own. Upbringing, or whatever it is, it is what it is. So I'm dating this guy, and I'm cooking and there was something way at the top of the shelf. And normally by myself, I would climb on top of I'll jump on top of the counter and get myself up there and reach whatever it is I need to be able to cook with. And then I climb down from the counter or whatever. So the first time it happened, he didn't say anything. All right. So I jump on top of the counter, I grab a can of something or whatever, and I cooked. So then we had a conversation. He said, well, when you do that and I'm here, and I'm tall, he was tall enough that he didn't even have to jump. All you needed to do was just go, here you go, type of thing. Yeah. But I had to jump onto the counter. So he's like, well, I'm here. Don't be afraid to ask me. So when you have something up top there that you need to reach, let me know. You don't need to be climbing up on top of counters and all this, because I'm here. So I was like, well, he's like, no, listen, I'm here. And that's what I'm here for you, to back you up or whatever. And I'm like, okay, fine, sure. I heard you, because I just wanted, I was like, okay, fine, I heard you. So the next time I'm cooking, he's at my house, in my apartment, and I needed to get something up there. So I jump on top of the counter. Didn't even think about it because I'm so used to doing it. It's natural.
Yeah.
I jump on top of the counter and I, pull it. As I'm pulling it down, I can feel the eyes piercing, the piercing gaze coming from him. So I'm like, so I take this can that I've already got, put it back on the shelf, so jump back down. And I'm like, babe, can you please help me? That was hilarious. But at the end of the day, I did acknowledge that I heard him. And at the same time now, going forward, I was asking, even though I knew I could jump on top of the counter and I could pick up the can or the spice or whatever from up there, but I would make a point to ask him when he was there. So I guess my point is, don't be afraid to ask for help. And if your person tells you what they want or how they feel or how they think a situation should be handled, and if it's not going against the grain of your very existence, there's no reason to make this person feel a certain way or make them feel like, just help them out, because it's a partnership.
Yeah, it's a partnership. And, that's also a good example of, how do I say this? You can do it yourself and you didn't see the big deal. Mm-hmm. But to him, it was important to be there for you. And to be there for you, that instance was pulling a can of whatever from a top shelf. Yeah. And I think by the same virtue, we also have to realize as women that there's some things that our partners or men do for us, to show that, how do I say this, that they care for us. What example can I give? For instance, maybe you need to go to a baby shower and, it's a co-ed baby shower and he doesn't want to go there. Sometimes he'll show up with you to show support, but he doesn't necessarily want to be there. That wasn't the example I was looking for. But okay, for instance, maybe you're someone who really enjoys cooking, but then you meet a guy who enjoys cooking as well, he might sit back and say, okay, you know what? She wants to show me her affection by cooking, but it doesn't mean he can't do it himself. He can do it himself, but he's allowing you to provide a service to him, right? And so, like you're saying, sometimes we have to sit back. And if someone says, well, this is important to me, for me to show that I'm there for you, mm-hmm. Let them be. Let them be. One thing I'm also thinking about is, because we've had different experiences, I think, when it comes to men and how they want to feel valued in our lives. But also something I wanted to touch on when it comes to finding love is that our stories of finding love are different, ladies. I mean, for the longest time, I remember, because my background is in church, I thought you know, my guy would find me maybe making an announcement at church. Like I'd be on the church podium and then he'd walk into church and then he'd go, wow, that's her. That's the one. That's the one I want to marry.
That is my wife.
That is my wife. And the reason why I thought that is because I'd heard stories like that, from other women in the church that, I was singing in the choir, or, we're at a fun day for youth, and that's how he found me. And so I thought, that was going to be my story. But our stories are really different. And you know what? A lot of people are talking more now about online dating. But in the past, it seemed like, how do I say this, a desperate move, right? So for some of us, we'll find our loves online. For some of us, we'll find our loves when you're on a bus ride. Maybe there's a guy, I know there's a girl who met a guy who, like, on the C train, like each time she would come out of the C train, he was getting on, and they saw each other a few weeks. And then eventually he got the courage, to ask her out. And that's a meet cute story, but not all of us are going to find our loves that way. It's going to be very different. And so as women, I think we need to be open to, because I know sometimes it's easy for us to listen to other people's stories, or even on YouTube, there are people who talk about, oh, how God told me this was going to be my husband. And you end up getting stuck, wanting your love story to unfold a certain way when our paths are very different, right? And I also want to talk about the fact that love comes in different cultures. It comes in different, shades of Black, different shades of white. Your love might be Asian, your love might be Caucasian, your love might be someone like you, right? And so let's not pigeonhole ourselves in terms of what our love should look like and how we will meet that person, because we miss the boat when we do that. So yeah.
I totally agree. When you were talking about church, I remember there's this guy that came up to me and he's like, Ropa. He's like, Ropa, God told me that you are my wife. And he's like, so you're supposed to get married to me. And I'm like, no, how come he told you and didn't tell me? And then he's like, I'm giving you 2 weeks to make a decision because you are the one that I'm supposed to marry. Holy.
You're the one for me.
Yeah, I ran away from that person. And I think for those 2 weeks, I was MIA. And I was like, you know what? No, thank you very much. And unfortunately for him, that was around the time also my first boyfriend. I kind of met my first boyfriend around that time. And his approach was completely different. His approach was more, I want to get to know you as a person. I want to befriend you, and I literally care about your thoughts, your feelings, your this and that. Whereas the other guy gave me 2 weeks to decide and to accept his demands that I was, created for him type of situation. So I ended up going with this guy. And not with the one that had dreamt about me and had been given a revelation, but the one that was completely outside of the church, completely, not even a church goer. Why? Because he cared about who I was.
He cared about and there was no, how do I say this, direct message from God that, you know what, you're my wife. The reason I'm laughing.
You are my wife. You have no choice. I'll give you 2 weeks to accept.
The reason I'm laughing is because I used to firmly believe that. And I actually said it to a guy. Ladies, you can guess that relationship never went far. Told him that I prayed about it, and you know what? And in this case, no, I'm not poo-pooing praying. Praying is really important, for those who believe, and for those of us who believe. But what I'm saying though is, yeah, you know what, if you want to scare a person off, that's a very effective way.
Tell them that.
So,
and you know, there are certain people that don't get scared. Like that same guy, the woman that he married also went around saying that to people. So when she said that to him, he's like, you know what? You're the one, I'm the one. Yes, let's do this, right?
We're the only ones who are hearing from.
Exactly. It's just saying it to the wrong person it kills the relationship before it even goes anywhere. And if it was going to go anywhere, or if something was going to happen, nothing will happen.
Nothing will. Yeah, no, it's definitely a mood killer. I had a question to ask you. So there's one thing, I guess, it's one thing, I guess, to finding love, but what are the practical ways of actually finding love? Right? What are the practical ways of finding love? Can you tell me? Yeah.
All right. I mean, there's so many ways. There's so many ways to find people, or find, I don't know. Do we call it finding love, or do we call it finding a person to date so that you can possibly find love with this person? But anyway, let's just say finding love, to keep it simple.
Yeah.
I would say, well, the one that's obvious right now is online, where people go online and, you know, they sip through the masses. And then there's also just the organic way. So there's you meeting somebody at the grocery store. So that means whenever you leave your house to go to the grocery store, make sure you're on point. Make sure you are snatched. You never know where your husband or your lover, boyfriend or whatever is coming from. There's also events. So for the people that like, you know, running, there's like the marathons, and then the 5Ks and the 10Ks that you can go running. That's where you're going to find a lot of people that come there that are also, you know, finding somebody. You never know who you're going to meet over there. Hiking, there's like hiking groups. Join a lot of the clubs, like the I don't know, dodgeball club or whatever clubs there are, volleyball club or whatnot. You can get to meet people through that. There's also being I don't want to say matchmaking, but meeting people through friends. Like, let's say your friend has a friend that is single, and they kind of introduce you, and that's how you meet. And I feel that to me is very ideal, because you've got people that know this person and can either vouch for him or can tell you certain things that you would have to spend months, the three-month probation thing, trying to figure out. You can figure out right away because people already know this person, type of thing. And then there's also speed dating.
Yeah.
Speed dating.
I did that once. It was fun.
Right. And you get to see the person, you get to get the vibe of that person right away, as opposed to online. It's very hard to, because people put their best pictures, and some people put their pictures from 20 years ago. Right. And you're thinking you're dating this person, and then you meet them, you'd be like, whoa, wait a minute, you're like 20 years older, type of thing.
Yeah, actually, you know, speed dating, I've done it as well, and it was fun. And I think for me, it was really, how do I say this? It was said in such a traditional way, where the lady sits and then the guys get a timed time frame for being
to
with
walk
you.
Around. Yeah,
you know, and you know, I remember I was matched with someone, and for me that was very, how do I say this? It's when I cut my hair. Like, my hair was short, you know, I was not covering my face with anything. And you know what? The guy that I was matched with was a really nice guy, but that's when I was working up north. And so it didn't go anywhere, because he wanted, you know, to be in a relationship with someone who's always there. So I think what I wanted you to get at is, you can't just be stagnant, you know. There's this guy that we both listen to whose name is, Benjamin Dube. And, sorry if I'm leaning more on, I guess, the church experience in this case. But he was saying, you know what, if you stay in the same church for many years and you still haven't found someone, don't move from that church, right? It's the same thing with social circles. If you have been in the same city, maybe you're not a churchgoer, you've been in the same city for years and you can't find a romantic partner, what's keeping you there? You also have to move, and you also have to be intentional, right?
Yeah,
and also, I think, let's not discount the male friends, just friends that we've had for years. Sometimes that's actually a good way of finding love, because you've known this person for a really long time. And, especially if you've been authentic with each other, there's nothing to hide, right? So don't also discount people who've been in your life for a really long time, because you've been together for a long time as friends, because you have shared values, right? And so there's a chance there for a romantic relationship to develop.
True. Sometimes there's a chance, sometimes because you know them, they would never work.
Oh yeah, it happened to me too.
All right. So yeah, you don't have to discount them, but at the same time, you have to tread carefully, because you could lose friendships with that as well. So if you're gonna be looking at your friendships, then it has to be like really serious. It has to be like undeniable chemistry. It has to be, stuff like that. Yeah, no, I totally agree. If you're not finding love in a specific area, then you need to move. Also, if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're still getting the same results, then do something different. It might not be moving to a different province, but it might be, okay, I go from work to home every single day. Why don't I go from work to, I don't know, go drink a coffee at, Tim Hortons, or like, have a drink with the people, or at least go out and do some type of activity, whether it's, take a walk or something. You know how sometimes you're just walking in a path, you can meet somebody, maybe their dog comes to sniff you or something, and then all of a sudden you're now talking about a dog, and then from nowhere you've exchanged numbers, and now, oh, look at that, we met each other on a walk type of thing. Mm-hmm. So always change it up, always be open to meeting new people.
Yeah, meeting new people. Yeah, very true. Very true. So any parting words of wisdom?
Go out there and mix and mingle. Do your thing, and be open as well to love. Is not, the thing is, sometimes it doesn't always work the way that you think it's gonna work, right? Like Carnation was saying, she thought she would be on the podium, and then the guy walks in and be like, oh my God, look at my girl.
Look at her.
Look at her, she's my wife. It doesn't always happen the way that you think it's gonna happen, right? Remember, some people work with, like, sometimes some people have long distance relationships and they work, and some people have inner city relationships that work as well. So be open to a lot of things and just see where it goes. Be true to yourself. When you're in a relationship, don't pretend to be something you're not. Don't just go with the flow. If that flow is not for you, let that person know, this is not for me. And then that way they know, okay, this is who this person is. Do I really want to be with them still or not? And that way, you're going to get exactly what works for you, as opposed to, 3 years down the line, you are clashing and things are not working.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's solid advice. And I'd like to go back to the idea of meet cutes, or how we met. if everyone's story was the same, then we wouldn't have a reason to listen to how we met, because we could predict, you know, how these people met. So, you know, maybe you're in a friend group and, you know, there's a friend you admire and this is how they met their husband. Your story is not going to be that way. And maybe your siblings, you know, and your sisters, you know, they met their now husbands a certain way and this is how they got married. Your story might be completely different. I think that's one piece of advice that my mom told me, you know, and just be, you know, genuinely open. Don't be closed off. You know, love can be found in a tall guy and it can be found in a short guy. You know, the world has so much variety in terms of men, and there are good men out there, you know, and don't get stuck. If you're in your 20s, you're in a relationship and you want to hold on to it because you're close to getting married. Young ladies, the quality of guys gets better as you get older. There's a large pool of guys. And so don't ever operate from a perspective of there's little, or if I let this guy go, I won't find anyone. Trust me, there are a lot of good guys out there, guys without baggage, you know, guys who are ready for love, and you just need to be open and write your own love story. And so, yeah, so that's kind of my advice there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. With that, thank you very much, ladies. Comment in the comment below. Let us know what other ways we might have missed that you can use to find love. I was thinking of a cruise, going on a singles cruise. Don't they have those single cruise? And they also have a singles getaway, I think, in Mexico, where you, as a single person, you get away, you go meet other singles. So many ways. But anyway, let us know. Yeah,
let us know. And this is it's a part one of two, right? Because
there's
in the next in the next installment, sometimes love doesn't work and you have to manage a heartbreak. So yeah, look out for that next one in our part two of this two-part series.
Bye, ladies.
Bye.